Holy esports off season. This is Flight Check Season 3, Episode 27. We are back one more time with a special guest host, discussion of all the coaching and staff announcements from FlyQuest this past week, and a rest in peace to FlyQuest Red's maps at ESL Impact this past weekend. My name, as always, is Sandy Toes, and to my left, and my extra left, and my extra left are the three hosts for tonight. My usual co-hosts, as always, Noxwar and Curly Double Q. But tonight, I'm going to skip right by them because we've got a special guest host for the evening. Numiii, community manager for FlyQuest, joining the show tonight. Numiii, welcome in. How are you doing tonight on this beautiful Monday evening?
I'm so excited to be here. I've had a very interesting Monday, per se.
Yeah.
Yep. I
think we all have in some ways.
I feel like it's one of those. This is the second time this month, or in a 3-week time span, where my Mondays have just gone AWOL, completely.
Yeah.
But I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. And obviously, I've met two of the three of y'all in person, so I'm excited to actually finally be on the podcast, talk about FlyQuest things, and not just specifically League of Legends, right? Other games, and say hi to everyone. So glad to be a part of it.
Awesome. Can you give us any kind of insight as to what's been making this Monday a particularly wild one?
I woke up to a $300 confirmation email that my credit card was used to purchase Norton software, but someone actually messaged me saying that their mom had this problem, and then I messaged my mom, and my mom said she got the same email. So I don't know if this is a thing, but please check your sender addresses. I called my banks this morning.
Oh boy.
That was a little scary.
My
So wait, you were actually charged, or you just got an email saying?
No, I got an email, but the sender address is an incorrect address, and even in the receipt, there's no confirmation of a credit card.
Yeah.
So I called my banks and hey, can you read me my transactions? So definitely during this holiday season, a lot of people are making purchases for gifts, flights. Please check your credit card statements. That was very scary to wake up to.
That is wild.
Beware of phishing.
I also misread Monday. I misread Wednesday as Tuesday. I'm so sorry to to Path to LCS for saying that Champions Queue is coming Wednesday, and I said tomorrow with a GIF. I'm so sorry to that social media person.
Oh man, we're all getting too excited for esports off.
We just want Champions Queue
for League off season to be over. Nox, Curly, how's the week been? What's new with you guys?
Curly, you want to go for? Should I retell the story on stream, or?
I mean, it was a good one.
Yeah, you can enlighten the.
All right. So I'm also on board the Monday of confusion or fogginess, however you want to call it. So really quick. Before our podcast, I was playing a TFT game, and I was playing 7 Heartsteel, and I slammed a 2-star cane, slammed items on it, and then I had to go. And I thought I was going to drop out in 4th. Came back 30 minutes, probably 15 minutes later. Came back 15 minutes later, had a 1st. I was like, what happened? So long story short is a couple days ago, I ordered a table for a new house that I have just purchased because I'm a homeowner now. And it was delivered to the wrong apartment. And so I went and knocked on that person's door and said, hey, do you have my table? They said, no. So, I think the front office of your apartment complex has it. Went down there this morning, this afternoon, to go talk to him. And to do that, I parked my car right in front of our apartment complex's gate because it was the quick, easiest route to their office. And so I went inside thinking it was going to be a quick conversation, and I ended up in there for 30 to 35 minutes trying to figure out what happened to my table. My table's just gone. And so after that, can't figure out what happened to the table. I'm my brain's frazzled. I don't know what's happening. And so I go upstairs, I go up to my apartment, a shower, a change. I'm all right, we're going to get that TFT game in, and I'm going. And suddenly, right as I'm about to die in this TFT game, I slam my cane, I slam my items, and my wife calls me, and she's like, why is your car just in the middle of the road, blocking all these cars to the apartment complex? And I was like, huh? What do you, because normally I park on the second floor. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm parked on the second floor, aren't I? She's like, no. Like, she like reads off my license plate. She's like, no, it's your car. Like, here's the numbers of your license plate. And I was like, and like, you know, like those moments like where your life flashes before your eyes. Hopefully this has never happened to anyone, but like, you know, like just like everything zooms by and it's like suddenly like all your memories recall in one instant. Like all of it running back came into my head and it was just like, oh shit, yeah, I did leave my car just parked smack in front of the gate so no one could get into our own apartment complex, and I've left it there for like the past 2 hours. Oops. So
2 hours.
Yeah, that was my brain today. So hopefully everyone else's Monday is going better than me and Numiii.
Oh my goodness. I feel like I had the most relaxed Monday because like I was at a cabin this weekend in Southern Ohio. And I'd say the worst thing that happened on the way back was my car has this lovely small problem that developed when I drove I want to say when I was driving back to New York for Thanksgiving, is that little plastic underbody thing. It kind of like cracks, split in two, and there's one part that just likes to try and get up to my wheel, and you'll just hear a horrendous sound. But I just kind of keep like shoving it back into place because I'm like, it's not a big problem. It's just like as long as I put it back in place, it lasts for about 3 weeks. But then on the way, there was like one particular bridge on the highway that just knocked it, and I just heard it flap. I'm like, it's not that bad. And then it was like just scraping the axle, and I was like, all right, I gotta pull over and fix it. Like that's really the worst thing that happened today. But you know, I've shoved it back into place and made it all the way back home just fine. And that's really all I did today. But my weekend turns out, so Southern Ohio, a lot more beautiful than I realized. It's kind of like a different state.
Not bad.
I'm glad your weekend was a lot better.
I know you seem to have had the best one of all of us here, which is.
Cool. I mean, when you disconnect from society for a weekend to celebrate your friend's birthday, usually it goes pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, so how was your weekend then Monday though, Sandy? Can't forget about you.
Wow! You're so kind. You're so kind. No, we had a lot going on. I'm trying to remember even what it was. Oh, Friday night. So I drove up. So I live kind of in the Washington, D.C. area. And I drove approximately 3 hours north on Friday night to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is like the heart of Amish country. And I did indeed see like a horse and buggy, you know, on the side of the road, you know, doing their thing. People on some folks on like scooters. They looked like bikes, but they were like moving them like scooters as well. I wasn't really sure what was going on, but went up there for a concert. It was a lot of fun, and then got back at like 1:30 in the morning. Woke up. We were hosting a Christmas party that night, so it's just been kind of like a non-stop activity all weekend. So nice to be sitting down here with my friends discussing the one thing we all know and love, which is FlyQuest esports. And I think we're going to move on to that right now. The big news of the week. FlyQuest finally announcing general manager, scout, analyst, staff, all of it is out for public consumption now. So I'll just read it off for you folks who have not seen it. You can find it right on the FlyQuest Twitter if you scroll down a little bit. But we've got Andy Barton, ex-Evil Geniuses, as the general manager. Empire, also ex-EG, as the scouting director. And then coming over from previously 100 Thieves as the head coach, it'll be Nuke Duck. Richard is staying on, one of the few remaining folks from the team last year. Richard coming in as the strategic coach, coming in as
Say what?
I was
going to say my one person who I did not get a point for in my dead pool.
Right. Maybe the biggest surprise for a lot of us was assistant coach / probably positional coach Arrow, ex LCS bot laner. Sig is still our analyst. Rocco sticking around as NACL head coach, and Blue as the team manager. According to Vulcan, Blue was the reason that we finished ninth last year.
Oof.
So, you know,
Dang.
I mean, look, I don't know why you would keep a guy like that around if he's just going to make you finish ninth. But
I know he's not on the show, Numiii, but any defense for him on that one?
Blue is a really great team manager. I would just like to point that out. Literally, when I have questions about the LCS team, Blue is literally there. So it is for jokes, but the thread is pretty funny, not gonna lie.
What we don't know is that Blue is standing right behind Numiii right now. And,
yeah, like in the corner.
Or like in front of her holding up cue cards, you know, and that's why, you know, her statement sounded so, you know, perfect and professional. Blue is a great team manager. Please let me go home now. You know, so all right. Well, Nox, I'm gonna come to you first here. We already kind of knew, just, you know, based on if you were paying attention to some of the rumors that were going around. We already knew some of these things, but there's a couple pieces that I think are surprises for some folks. What for you was maybe the most welcome thing to see in this announcement, and B, the most surprising thing? And then Curly, I'll follow you up with that question next.
I guess happiest thing for me is seeing Racco stay. I think he's super, super smart, and I think he's a really, really good guy to have leading the NACL division. On top of the fact that the NACL is staying for FlyQuest Challengers, I'm extremely happy about that. So both of those things combined are probably the two like happiest things for me. I think genuinely the biggest surprise is Arrow, which kind of feels like the most out of left field thing there is. Like, he's retiring from play and he's going into coaching, and not to say that he's not fit for it. He's a really, really smart dude. Like, if you've ever watched any of his streams or if you like kind of talk to him behind the scenes, like, he knows what he's talking about. I'll be very curious to see how well he transitions his knowledge into actual coaching ability. So for me, that's probably far and away the most surprising pickup of the season.
Yeah, Curly, how about you? Similar thoughts on that?
I think for me,
elsewhere?
I think what I'm most excited about, like when I saw this, was actually that about half the team is still people that are like were on FlyQuest last year. So you still have that retention of identity and like what the organization is about, whilst adding some new people that are going to be able to kind of spice that up. So I think it's kind of like the overall composition is what made me really excited. And I think, as with everyone though, Arrow was kind of an out of left field one. I don't think we mentioned him once, even as a concept, when we were talking about coaching, whether it was a head coach, assistant coach. And so I think that's a really unique pickup that'll be very beneficial, especially if he like is a positional coach working directly with Masu.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I do like having someone in to focus on our younger bot lane. You know, Busio, I was listening to some of the coverage over on it was not a Hotline League episode, but Travis Gafford had Croissant and Cubby on his show last week to discuss some of the roster stuff, and they were talking about how Busio is really he's played for a full year, and Masu has only had 3 splits of competitive experience, and so we're looking at a bot lane where Busio is the vet in this bot lane, and so he's going to be the one expected to maybe kind of take things to the next level in terms of leadership and providing that experience. So I'm really glad though to see Arrow being brought in as someone who has been around for such a long time, who has seen so many different kinds of scenarios. So I'll be really excited to see how he levels this bot lane up. I think the bigger surprise for me was I had not, and maybe I had just completely missed this. I had no idea that Empire was being rumored to be on the scouting side. I had not heard that whatsoever. I had only heard Andy Barton. So that was a huge surprise for me. So that's super welcome. I think he's built some really good stuff in the past, so I'm excited to see what he can do here as well.
I would say it's fair to say that him and Loyola are probably the two, at least in the North American scene, right? Like, around the world, whatever. In North America, him and Loyola are probably number 1 and number 2, however you want to rank them in terms of scouting capabilities. They are the best in the game. So the fact that FlyQuest still has one of the top 2 scouts in North America speaks a lot, I want to say.
Right. Numiii, question for you here. From your perspective, what is it like, with the whole, the community is out there talking about like, oh, the leak is out that XYZ person is coming in, to be general manager or coming in as a coach or whatsoever. What's kind of the perspective from the org side in terms of timing the announcement or, saying like, are you waiting because I think even on the show we were talking about like, wow, we're like way into free agency now and like we've not heard anything about who is actually putting this roster together. I know I was saying that a ton. So from the org perspective, however much you can say, was there kind of like we're trying to get all the ducks lined up in a row before we can drop this announcement, or is there like some kind of strategic aspect to it? What's your insight on that?
I will say in like this specific league off season is a little different from the last 2 splits in that there's more official leakers, if you even want to coin that term, specifically
maybe.
like individuals such as like Pokemon accounts. Pokemon accounts have now merged into an account called Sheep Esports. So I will say in terms of information, and I say this from a fan as I watched obviously from spring to summer and then summer to now, right? Like even if you look at last split, the information and what is being displayed for a fan is completely different, right? The speed at which it's at, the frequency at which it's at is different. I will say from org perspective, I can say for coaching staff, they just wanted to like get their coaching staff together, right? Just like the interviews and conversations, and obviously I'm not a part of those conversations. But definitely like from their perspective, I can see like, does it fit with company vision, right? Like what is the vision that the general manager wants to go for? Okay, how does that translate to a head coach? Oh, we have a younger bot lane. So how does that look like? Do we need like a strategic coach or like a positional coach, for instance? So I will say that like from a coaching perspective, I know FlyQuest just want to take their time, interview people, and see if they're a good fit for not only the team but also company culture, right? The people you bring on are the people that represent your business. Right. So I know they took their time in talking to others because they want to see if this person's the right fit competitively and business wise too.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. Yeah, Knox. I just said a moment ago, we discussed. And I know I ranted at length about the amount of time it was taking to get some of these announcements out. Now that it's all kind of said and done, maybe some retrospective on all of it with, there were bits and pieces being put out there. Do you feel like, from what we know, with from Andy Barton's previous history, does this feel like the kind of setup that, this feels like the kind of setup he is looking for, in his staff under him? Would you agree with that or disagree?
In terms of like the league staff specifically, or like the org? Is this like kind of,
no, I'm just saying like, it feels like this is the exact kind of setup that he would want to put together, at least from my perspective. And I'm wondering if you agree with that.
I think there's pieces he acquired that like he definitely did want, but I don't think he got everything he wanted. I think more than anything, this is going to continue to be a building year. I mean, and keep in mind, like they're stepping into a new organization. It's like that's being actively rebuilt, right? Like this is a new generation of FlyQuest. This is no longer the generation of like Trisha, Nick Fan. This is Papa Smithy. This is now Andrew Barton. This is a new ideation of FlyQuest, right? So almost think of it for this org. This is a year one. It's not necessarily a rebuild, although it is a rebuild. It's really just setting the foundations and the stepping stones for what is to come down the line, right? So for me, no, I don't think Andrew Barton got everything set up the way he wants it, which is why you're going to continue to see changes in the years to come, and that's going to always cause like road bumps along the way. But I mean, that's just what you have to do to build something great, hopefully one day, right? It's a process. So long story short, no, I don't think he got everything he wanted because there's things I'm eyeballing that probably don't quite fit or don't quite make sense yet. Even if it's very good educated guesses and you do a lot of hard work to make sure your interviews get the best people possible. I just don't think the right people are there or we're not available yet. So, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, especially with how much like shuffling around that was done this offseason for both the org and the league team. You got to work with what you got, in which case, for what it's worth, like, I know in past episodes that I've been kind of bummed about this roster and everything, but, like, at the end of the day, I still have them, like, in my power rankings ranked as 4th. Like, they're going to be fighting for the top 3. They're going to be fighting to go to Worlds. Like, it's still not a bad roster. As a fan, I have higher expectations, right? So,
well, depending on how many spots Riot gives NA next year.
I mean, that's also true, too. We don't know what Riot's doing yet.
Right.
So, my point is, they're going to be competitive. And that's really all you can ask for after all that's happened this offseason, right? So, not everything you wanted, but he's on the way.
Yeah. Curly, thoughts on the Nuke Duck acquisition for head coach? So, this was a team, or he coached for 100 Thieves last year. This was a team that I think folks would say underachieved maybe some of the expectations. You know, you had some difficulties where, you know, they brought in Quid and he wasn't quite, you know, the magic puzzle piece that I think they were hoping he was going to be. You had, you know, the double lift Busio lane looked good at times. But then you even had, you know, times where Nuke Duck actually played mid lane for this team because Quid just wasn't there yet. So how are you feeling about bringing in Nuke Duck? Like a player, like an ex-player coach, we've seen this work before, right? Like this does work. But I'm not necessarily convinced, and I'm wondering if you share in the sentiment, I'm not necessarily convinced that Nuke Duck yet has like the pedigree to like lead a team to victory in the way that we're really hoping for in 2024. And obviously there's you know, time to build and there's time to learn, and he's got other folks around him in Arrow and Richard as well. But I'm a little concerned that, like, you know, okay, I'm just not really sure what we're getting here. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, at first I definitely admit I was a little apprehensive because I wasn't too fond of 100 Thieves' performance throughout this year, and Nuke Duck being a part of the team, he's going to have to carry part of that burden with him, and especially being a newer coach. But the more I've thought about it, the more actually excited I am for this, when you realize that the only player he has no experience with is Masu. He's been opposite Inspired, Bwipo, and Jensen in different facets before, because Inspired and Bwipo, actually, don't quote me on the Jensen one, but they've got experience together, right? And then he coached Busio. And so there's a lot of familiarity there, and I think that'll make it easier to dive into the conversations you need to have when planning for the whole year, when doing scrims, when figuring out what's going well, what's going wrong. Like, especially because he's won and lost against Inspired and Bwipo before, so he's felt their strengths and weaknesses firsthand. And so if he recalls them, he might be able to use that to his advantage. And then again, sticking with Busio, that's a year-long relationship that is going to continue. And I personally believe in as long as there's continuity, that's a really good thing in any sports facet. So if people are familiar with each other, it's easier to work together. And so I'll admit that maybe some of that familiarity, because of the fact that they all played against each other back in the LEC for the European players, is going to be maybe a bit rocky at first. But when they're all people that are like, hey, we have the same goal, so we're going to do what we need to do to achieve that goal. And so it's made me more comfortable and actually excited to see how this team can thrive.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Numiii, maybe from your perspective, what excites you about bringing in Nuke Duck, and also about Arrow? Like, what's exciting for you, both as because you're a fan of this team, right? As well as like an employee. But so what's exciting for you about bringing these guys in?
I'm really excited for Arrow. For like mentioned earlier, Arrow was a former NACL like LCS ADC player. He was formerly on Team Liquid, and is now going to be like a coach for FlyQuest. So I'm excited to see from like a player working directly from a player to a coach perspective. Obviously, we've seen this transition before in multiple times over the years. So I'm excited to see just like personal development from Arrow, just to see like how does he communicate with people, right? You're a coach now, like you're a teacher, you're a mentor, and not to say that players aren't mentors, but like it's a different role now because it's more formalized, and also like you're not playing the game, right? You're observing, you're watching, like giving feedback, and you kind of have to deliver it in a different way, I think, too. So I'm excited to see Arrow's like personal development for that. I've not talked much like to him personally, as a fan or like as staff, right? So I can't really speak on that, but I've watched Arrow play in NCL, and the man's a really good player. So I'm excited to see how that'll translate for like Masu's experience, right? Specifically for head coach Nuke Duck. I don't know if people realize this about me. I'm actually a new LCS fan. I've only been around for about a year. So if you're asking me about like Nuke Duck's like experience, I can say that I'm excited for him to be working with like Busio, right? Because he did it on 100 Thieves. Now he's gonna like do it on FlyQuest. But also like I think when you bring in new people, it also brings a fresh of air, right? Like, this is there's different people on the staff. There's familiar faces and there's new faces too. So they're wearing different colors, right? Different jerseys, but they still have coaching styles. And I'm excited to see what these people will bring to the table. Obviously, Arrow being a new individual, and the new Doug having a lot more experience for that too.
Yeah. No, that's great. Knox, final question on this. I want to throw it to you. So I was just looking at, Empire's tweet the day it was announced. He talks about how, he says there's a lot of responsibility in starting a new long-term project. And, we know previously at EG, that was kind of the direction that him and Andy took with their roster as well. Lay out some, expectations that we should be having here. Like what, obviously we're already continuing to see support for the NACL team. Looking forward to that announcement. We've already had some rumors about who's going there. I know they just had their tryouts and their scouting stuff this past in recent times. But what are you expecting to see laid out from this org in terms of like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have this plan. We're going to try to do these things. What are you expecting to see now that Empire and Andy are over here?
I'm going to take you back really fast to 2020 when we got COVID aced, right? Like that whole 2020 roster just gone, 2021 brand new roster. Because it's kind of the same scenario, right? Like our 2023 roster completely gone. And so the 2021 roster had Licorice, Jose Dioto, Halifax, Johnson, and why am I blanking on the support? Oh, Diamond, right? So there were some like kind of new names. There were some veteran faces in Licorice. Jose Dioto, which was an import, but like was a very successful import at the time from where his region was. He had a great Worlds on Rainbow 7 versus LGD. And so you see all of that, right? And so it's kind of the same level here in the sense that you have a couple veterans in Inspired and Whippo, and even Jensen, right? But then you also have some new fresh faces in Masu and Busio, new coaching staff along with it as well. And so it's both starting from ground one. And so what I'm expecting for Andrew Barton and Empire to do is just kind of little by little add pieces, take out pieces, shift pieces around as needed over the next like 3 or so years. And then, because I really don't think it's going to be like right out of the gate, boom, here's the success. It's not going to be a Cloud9 situation back in 2013 where they come in the league and they just dominate and they're a household name for esports. It just does, it's not going to work like that. So I'm expecting probably around 2025 is when FlyQuest is going to be really showing the powerhouse org that they are at that point, because it's going to take time to build up the roster to be able to repeatedly prove that they are a good team, right? And even in the opinion of fans, like the public of opinion, right, it's going to take a while to get to that point, because no one knows, unless you're a hardcore dedicated fan like us, like you're not going to know that like all this organization shuffling has been happening in the background, right? You don't know that Nick Fan's gone. You don't know that like Trish is gone. You don't know like there's new CEOs coming in, there's new GMs coming, and so on and so forth, right? A lot of them just see, well, FlyQuest fumbled the bag. There it is. What are you going to do? It's going to take a lot of time for like this org to become a household name, because you have to convince the people who do not pay very close attention. So that's kind of my expectations for the time being, is at least for this year. I mean, FlyQuest may even do well this year, and that's cool. But I'm expecting Andrew Barton and Empire to continue to build things and add pieces and even take away pieces when needed to be able to repeatedly show that they can be successful. And I'm expecting that to really come to fruition sometime around 2025. That's my guess. That's my prediction for the time being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my hope is that, and I would say this is also my hope for a lot of teams across the LCS, which definitely did not happen this offseason. But more of the NRG and Cloud9 approach, where you have a core and you iterate on that core slowly over time. You know, you're not dropping an entire roster. You're not Bud Light acing everyone, you know, after a split or after a year. But you're saying, hey, we like these pieces. We're just going to make 1 to 2 moves. And we're going to, you know, figure out what's working there. And then we're going to continue to do that until we get somewhere that we think is, you know, top tier competitively. And so that's what I would hope we end up seeing. That would really excite me. I think I for one, Knox, you kind of touched on this. I'm a little tired of the entire FlyQuest roster dropping after spending a year with them. I'd like to, you know, have some of these guys stick around. I really hope that at the very least, like Masu and Busio, assuming that they play very well and are like assume that they're like a top 3 bot lane in this league, which means a very different thing now than it used to. Assuming that they're like a top tier bot lane in this league, I really want to make sure that, you know, they are staying on this team in 2025. And I don't know if that means that there's other pieces that, you know, change out, but, you know, I'm hoping that at least 3 of these players stick around for season 15.
I want Masu, like, I want us to give him a real good shot, because we've been nurturing that since last season, and so I want that, like, us to be kind of his legacy org, you know?
Well,
I want to slap a franchise tag on him. Well, this man's ours. Wham!
If this guy pans out, then what you have to do is you turn this guy into what Cloud9 has done with Blabber. Blabber's there every year. Blabber's never going anywhere else. You know, I think it would be an absolute shock to the LCS ecosystem if Blabber went to a team other than Cloud9. And
crazy.
That's what you have to do. I mean, it was the same thing. You know, Bjergsen was on TSM for so long, and then it was kind of weird when he was like on TL and on 100 Thieves. Like, he just became synonymous with TSM. So I'm hoping that we get something similar with Masu and FlyQuest. All right, any final thoughts on coaching staff before we move to our second topic of the evening?
No, I think for the time being, it's off season, baby. I'll see y'all in January.
It is off season. It is also off season now officially. Once again, for our good friends over at FlyQuest Red. We do have to discuss this. For those of you who missed it, FlyQuest Red competing in ESL Impact Season 4 Finals this past weekend did not go the way that I think a lot of us were hoping it would go. So if you missed it, it was not a lot to discuss, unfortunately. They had their first BO1 against Fluxo Demons from South America, Brazil team. They lost in OT. I believe it was 16-12. Actually, that might not have been OT. No, it was. Yeah, it was OT. They lost 16-12. And that sent them down to the elimination match, which was a best of 3, where they proceeded to get 2-0'd, and it was not pretty. They got 13-6 on Ancient, and then lost on Overpass 13-2 as well. And, I was just going through and looking at, some of the, tweets from the team, Goose Breeder, and talking about how, disappointed that they couldn't showcase how good they can be. BBon talked a little bit more about it. Unfortunately, she said, she called the performance embarrassing, which is, it's tough to read something like that. She said, no excuse for our performances. Put everything into our practices. It seemed to be going well. Somewhere along the way, all that went out the window. So it's just tough to see this team falter at the final stretch here, dropping to a Brazilian team, and then I believe it was the one qualifier from Asia, which was like a weird mix of like China and a Brazilian player and someone from Hong Kong and Malaysia. So like all over the...
That is a wild mix.
All over the East Asian map. Just like all over... Plus one random Brazilian player. Yeah, just kind of all over the place. Definitely a tough loss. Numiii, I don't know what you want to say about this. I know you were really looking forward to this tournament. I know you were really looking forward to this tournament and supporting the girls. Just a really difficult loss, I know, for them. What was the mood? What was the feeling around the office after this weekend?
I was talking to the person covering the event, which is Park Mom, and I was just so sad. I think we just sent like sad Pepe emotes like to each other, like in the Slack message. I will say like the CS team actually did a boot camp before going to ESL Impact's finals. So it was held in Valencia, Spain. They did a week or week and a half boot camp and then went to Valencia, Spain. So they got used to like, the elo there, like the environment. My heart like goes out to that team. They've worked so hard, and we are only one of 2 North American teams like even in this tournament. And there's like a couple analysts on the desk like saying that like we were projected, or at least like they wanted to see more from this team, right? So my heart goes out to the players. They've worked so hard, even in their own regular season for ESL. Like we were either undefeated or almost undefeated. It was one of those 2 aspects. So we have a very strong performance like in regular season. So I'm just so sad for our CS team. And then from like the back end, obviously we had like a lot of stuff planned.
Yeah.
If we made it far, like I would say like Park Mom and one of our graphic designers, Seashells, like, or Shelly, like they both had like a really like very direct say in how the graphics went, like the vision of this, and like how it went on social media, coverage, like merchandise if possible, like that kind of stuff, right? So from a competitive side, like my heart goes to them. From business side, I'm like, I'm so sad. I like this team so much.
Yeah,
but
definitely tough.
It happens.
Yeah, it does happen. Sometimes you just boom, and it just doesn't work out. Nox, Curly, any comments on this? I mean, definitely a tough loss. And then there's just comments on this, and then there's one more question that I want to ask you guys about. But just comments on just maybe how to get back on the horse, for FlyQuest Red.
I mean, one of the cool things about the CS scene, there's pros and cons to it, is there's lots and lots of tournaments, right? Like, at any point, you can go to another tournament. It's, all right, this tournament sucked. It's fine. Just, like, wipe the mind blank. We go again, right? And so I know this was a pretty big tournament. Like, it was a high-quality tournament. And so it sucks that you go out like this. But at the end of the day, this is a really, really good group of girls. And just because you had one bad tournament on a, unfortunately, very important tournament doesn't mean you're a bad team. Like, like, hey, pat yourself on the back. Let's go again. That's all that it is. At least that's what I tell myself when I screw up in the tennis tournament. So, yeah, that's kind of just my thought process on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me is hearing about how like seriously they like take this loss, like they're disappointed in themselves. That means they care. That means they are going to work to make sure they don't disappoint themselves again. Like it's not like they're defeated or like sorry or just like sad. They're just like, hey, we didn't do what we should have done. We know we're better than this. And so I think for that, it's just knowing you're better than that, accept that it's a fluke, unfortunately timed fluke, but call it a fluke.
Yeah.
Figure out how to not let it happen again. And I think that's kind of the mindset they have. And so that makes me really excited to see how they approach the next tournament. And the one thing that everyone will tell themselves is you can learn from loss. So if they go back, they can probably really pick apart what their weak points were, because if you lose in such a like big spotlight, there's a lot you can notice, because I don't think they're a team that would crack under pressure if they've been performing so consistently. And so just highlight what you can't do, and I think they're going to do that.
Yeah. Final question on this. So I know there's been some discussion on how ESL Impact is changing next year. So they are giving more slots, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, any of you, but they're giving more slots to EU and taking slots away from North America and South America. And it's really the same exact format where it's open qualifiers, Impact League to qualify to global finals, and you just kind of like repeat that twice. And that's just kind of about it. So like global finals just ends up with having like 5 European teams. Asia does not get a slot in season 6 finals at all, which we just saw the Asian team beat one of the North American teams. So it doesn't feel like this is really going to do very much. Like season 6, Stockholm is going to have 5 European teams, 2 South American teams, and 1 North American team, which frankly makes no sense to me.
No,
I don't understand how you give 5 slots to Europe. If anything, make the event bigger. Just make the event bigger. Clearly there's the audience for it. Clearly there's the support for it and the interest for it. Like, I saw people talking about this tournament, especially right on the heels of Valo Game Changers a couple weeks ago. There was a lot of interest in this tournament. I think the timing is good because it's an off season for most of the other esports programs that are going on. So it's like, hey, this is what's on, and people tune in because it's like, oh well, I mean, hey, it's esports, let's watch it. So just make the event bigger. Clearly, there's the interest for it. This is just super frustrating to me that they are reducing the amount of opportunities to compete for folks who and it's mainly for folks who do not identify as male, right? It's like, and that's the more frustrating thing, where it's like, this is an opportunity specifically designed for marginalized communities, and they're just reducing the opportunities for those folks to compete. It's super frustrating for me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm sure you.
So I was going to comment on the fact that I think in general ESL is just doing a poor job in the Impact Series period, because even like the normal ESL Impact, the one that's like the main stage for like the premier teams, even that format they're messing up. So like going into next year, my understanding is like the tournaments that are going down, like there's going to be less tournaments overall. Like there's ESL Dallas that's happening sometime in May, and then there's not another tournament again until literally November. Yeah. On top of the fact that like even for the premier teams, they're reducing the number of slots from North American teams and increasing it for EU teams. They're reducing the South American slots and increasing it to EU teams. Asian slot for season 6. So it's the exact same for the women's league too, and men's league, like both sides. So I don't know what's going on over at ESL, but I would say there's something that is either incentivizing them or something that is clearly going over their heads in terms of a clue hitting them. Like I don't know, but they're very much homogenizing Counter-Strike to be very European only currently, which sucks. And on top of that, they're reducing the number of tournaments. So that makes me almost wonder if, like, are they hurting for money or something right now, and they just can't afford to have that many LAN events? I'm just a little confused on the whole situation in general.
Yeah, Numiii, I don't know if you have any comments you want to make on the situation.
Those are honestly my comments. A lot of the FlyQuest Red players just talked about like give a certain give Asia a spot, like give South America a spot. Like there's the audience for it, not even just for viewers but also for fans, right? So I would say a lot of the FlyQuest Red players were very upset. I think Miss Harvey also commented as well her thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like the demand is there, right? So it's like if you want to reduce why are you reducing a LAN? Like, come on,
right?
There, like people watch this tournament, so
yeah,
it's honestly just like Noxwar's comments. It's just it's confusing. Honestly, we have to see how it plays out in 2024. But I like empathize. Like we're losing slots, right? We're losing a LAN. Like that's so sad to watch, like to see as a fan. So
definitely. Yeah, no, completely agree. All right, well, we're going to move on to something a lot more happier. Luckily. We're going to do a little interview now. We've got this guest host on, so we're going to talk to Numiii. We're going to find out a little bit more about her. And, of course, the biggest thing, the thing we always ask everyone, straight away from the top, how did you get into League of Legends and League of Legends esports? What brought you down into this sick, twisted dimension that we all inhabit? How did you get here?
League of Legends specifically, like the game, or just talking about esports? Or both?
Esports works, yeah, sure.
Okay. I do remember subbing to the League of Legends subreddit because I wanted to know how patch notes worked and what people thought of metas and champion changes. And then because of the League of Legends subreddit also contains roster information, right? The first encounter I had for that was Coach LS leaves Cloud9. And I didn't really understand why the Reddit comments were so angry. I didn't know who this person was. I knew Cloud9 was a team, but I was just like, oh, it's just like video game team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know what it was. But everyone in the comments were so angry, and I didn't really understand why at the time.
You were literally Troy from Community walking in with pizzas and the apartment's on fire.
Yeah.
That was you.
But yeah, that's probably my first like esports encounter, if you even want to say that.
Right.
I did watch Worlds 2021 finals, but I can't remember. I can't tell you like who was there. I can't tell you like the teams that are competing. Like I can't tell you anything from that final. Like I think I was delirious watching that. I think it was like an abysmal like 8 a.m. like either 6 or like 8 a.m. like start time. Like one of those two. Like I cannot tell you anything about those finals. But I started watching it passively for drops. So like if anyone wants to ask like the pipeline of convert video game player to esports, I wanted to get free drops, so that, or like free emote drops and stuff. So that's
hey, Riot, you listening?
So the drops work. The drops work.
The drops work.
You heard it here first, folks. Drops
they get you
work.
hooked.
Giving away free stuff gets people in.
And I think I had spring 2022 finals like passively on my computer because like, oh, it drops, right? Because finals. So I think I had it muted when like there was the Danny pentakill. I'm pretty sure my stream was muted at the time. And then from there, I just started watching like I think like pipeline is quite funny, honestly, when I look back. From there, summer 2022, I started watching a lot more. CLG was the first team that kind of took my eye. Rip CLG. Kind of like got my eye just because they were playing Senna Seraphine bot lane, and I was a huge like Seraphine like main. I got her KDA skin through like a Twitch like Prime Gaming capsule as well. So like this stuff works. Like I don't know who's saying it doesn't work. Like it worked for me. So I just started watching a lot more LCS in summer 2022. I started getting involved in the community a lot more. I participated a lot in like Hotline League. I either called in as a like talk to talk about my experience, or like participating in chat. I ended up being Travis Gafford's community manager and esports journalist. And then from there, it just kind of like spiraled. I helped around with Worlds 2022 ticketing. I started going to the games a lot more. I started realizing like key figures of the community, either staff, players, or just like people that talked a lot. And I kind of spiraled into here. So I will say, in terms of my esports journey, I am only a year and a half old, if you even want to call it that. I started spring 2022. It's now the end of 2023. So not only as a fan, but obviously working in this industry, I'm only a year and a half old.
Right.
So
Wow. Wow. A budding esports professional right here. So
I did not intend to be here.
So when did you really kind of know that you wanted to like be a part of the scene? Because when did the spiral really just bring you down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, so in the beginning of this year, so I had previous to this role, I worked at a private medical billing company. I had been there for 3 years, straight out of college as a manager. So during COVID, it kind of kept me through. I was also living at home at the time, so it's kind of saving passive income. Like maybe I'll just go to grad school. This will be my money for grad school. Like I don't know what I want to do, but they pay me well here, first time out of college. Um, when I started getting to esports more, I started doing it on the side. So I would go to my like 9 to 5 job, like come home, eat dinner, and then watch streams or like interact with people from maybe like let's just say like 8 to like 11, something like that.
Right.
And then it started being a part of like my daily routine, like at work. Like I would like read Reddit or I would like respond to people. And it wasn't until the beginning of this year, where I was just like, you know what, I kind of really tired of my corporate job. Like, I want to try something different. I told myself, okay, I'm just gonna quit my corporate job. I'm gonna try this whole like esports thing. If I don't make it by like some, I gave myself like a deadline. Like, if I don't make it by this, I'm just gonna go back to healthcare and just do esports part time, right? So I didn't really know what that path would be like for me. It was just like I live at home. Like, I'm very thankful for my parents for like giving me a place to stay after college. Like, I had the stability where I could like afford at least to quit my full-time job and pursue esports, right? I would not recommend that to people. Please have a full-time job while you're doing esports things. I don't know if a lot of people realize this. Like, please do esports as a hobby, and then if you see a transitional period or where you feel a little more comfortable, then then yeah, like take the risk, right?
Right.
For me, I was so burnt out at my corporate job that I was done. But I was on a contract with Parth, who owns Saito, I would say like an esports consulting slash data or analysis company. I did social media for him for 3 months, and then FlyQuest reached out to me for community management and was asking me if I wanted to be a part of like the company, asking me my thoughts, etc. So I think I had only been doing esports for maybe like 4 or 5 months before I quit my job. Don't recommend that. I say this in any time like I talk about it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just get a full-time job and then do it on the side. Don't do what I did. So
Okay. Oh wait, where did my? I had my list of questions. Where'd it go? Okay.
Max lost his notes.
I had it in my mind, and then I wrote a message, and the thing. Okay. Anyway, my point is, so you mentioned FlyQuest approaching you, right, and wanting to have you be the community manager. So what was the actual like? Maybe just like a little bit of insight on what was the process like of being brought on as community manager? Like, what were the interviews like? What kind of questions were they asking? Like, kind of what was the whole process like for you?
yeah, I had a couple conversations with Papa Smithy specifically. He just asked me how I viewed esports as my involvement in it, asked me a couple things about the fan projects I was doing, asked me what I thought about League, that kind of stuff. I think my perspective is a little interesting because I've only been in this industry for a year and a half, most of the time of it being a fan and now transitioning into someone working in this space, where most of the esports people you encounter have been watching either for years, specifically those in the industry, usually have like a 5+ year resume, right? Either doing something on their own or working for an org or working for a brand. Like they have I feel like at least the business people I encounter have at least 5 years minimum. Like we're not even talking like most people have been in this industry for like 10 years sometimes, right? So for me, like I was approached, just asked for my ideas, what I wanted to do on an org. Um, I was talked to by a couple other people as well. So I think that was kind of humbling for me, but also like kind of very scary because I'm like, oh, I'm being approached to do what I love doing, like as a job now. Like it's going to be less of like a fan, and I'd be paid to do this. Like, is this something I actually want to do? Is this sustainable for me? Um, a lot of the esports orgs, like their corporate office is in Los Angeles, so I would have to move here, right? So obviously I'd be taking a gamble on like my personal financial life as well. So
Mhm.
ultimately at the end of the day, like I chose yes. I took a risk, which if you know me personally, like I don't really take risks. Like I'm not that type of person. So for me it was just like, do I trust in myself and the vision I have for myself to do this? So one of the reasons why I said yes was yes, I want to challenge myself and see what I can do in an industry. And obviously, esports is not just League of Legends, right? There's so many other competitive games in this industry. And now that I work for a brand, you see it more holistically and less about each individual video game and their spaces. It's like, how do you market a brand? How do you market a team? That type of stuff.
Right.
So, the conversations were they were enlightening, just obviously for the org, right? Because they're trying to understand who I am, but also for me because I'm like, oh, I've, I have this opportunity. Like, is this something I want to do, or do I want to like, do I want to do the content creator route? Like, do I want to try that? So I ended up choosing an org, and I'm very happy with my decision.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is it was a bit of a quarter life crisis.
Yeah, so I'm 26 for context. I was going through it. Like I was ready to move out. Like I wanted to start my life, right? I did not move out for college. So this was my not only like would I be moving for an esports role in Los Angeles, I'm also moving to Los Angeles, which is commonly known as one of the most expensive cities like in the country.
Oh yeah.
Right? So my first thoughts like how am I gonna feed myself? Like I'm gonna be okay on my own. And then also like am I still gonna have a job in 6 months? Is this
Right.
something I want to do? Like explaining to my parents, like I have a marketing role, and then my parents like, how stable is it? I'm like, well, I can't really tell you that. Like I'm also gonna move to LA for this, but I'm very grateful for these opportunities, and I'm very grateful for the growth I've had this year. I might make a post video. I'm kind of debating what, but kind of like a comment to myself of like wow, this year like kind of exploded for me, and
Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful for like what I've done and like what I want to do moving forward.
No, that makes
Because
total sense.
when's your 1 year anniversary? Or like when were you hired on it? Remind me.
I will say like April, May-ish, like spring
April. It
20
was like
like
because it was right after
spring-ish.
spring split, right? Like right before
Yeah, it was
summer.
right after spring finals I got hired,
Okay.
I would say. Um so spring-ish.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um. Yeah.
So what's your day to day schedule, meetings, like what are you're getting into the office on a Monday morning like today? What do things look like? Are you writing posts, interacting with the community? What's kind of the general duties of the FlyQuest community manager right now?
Yeah, so I would say my role is kind of the generality of like scouting through social media, right? Any social avenues that FlyQuest is involved in, like what do those communities need?
Hmm.
Obviously, catering to an Instagram audience will be different to a Twitter audience versus like Reddit, right? So how do I cater to those audiences? I don't make the tweets. We do have social media managers and leads for that, but obviously I can like suggest a copy on a tweet. I can suggest a tone. I can read it and be like, oh, I don't vibe with this, like, or hey, like maybe we try a different tone. Our social media team is actually quite good.
They're pretty
Arcom
cracked.
and
They're pretty
Shut,
good.
they're very good at being like on the nose of what is like there. So not just League of Legends, but for fighting games, for Valorant, for CS, like they're pretty good. So my role is more just like supporting them, finding information. For example, like say something like a article comes out about like a content creator that we've heard of before. I'm like, okay, let me like find these 5 tweets or 5 information that I can give to you so you understand context of the situation.
Hmm.
Right. So being chronically online does have its perks, guys. Um, But also
Noted.
too, part of my role too is just like, okay, like I do a lot of live events. So specifically, I've participated in LCS summer finals. So the booth, I was in charge of that. Execution, meet and greet, item transport. I also helped a little bit with the sponsorship as well. So the League of Legends team is sponsored by MasterCard. So I was asked to help with that communication, like communicate about our branding. MasterCard also gave like a MasterCard fan experience the day of the event. Like, how do I help them promote it, right? That kind of stuff.
Right.
Also smaller things too, like not only does League of Legends do like the tailgates or after parties, so like the small events that happen afterwards, also trying to do like online stuff, right? Like I have a role in the FlyQuest Trailblazer Valorant tournament that we're hosting for Valorant Game Changers. We're doing event 3 of 4 events, and I have a role in like participating in tournament organizing, like communicating with players, looking at graphics requests, like social, like what does the social plan look like, or at least like how does like Park Mom envision social plan? Like, how do I tell someone else about that? So part of my role is just like, okay, scouting community, what do they want? What do they need? How can I provide that? Either an experience, an event, um, a nice message, or like wherever I'm slotted in, right? So live events, online tournaments, on like online things I want to do. So community management is kind of a little bit of everything, I would say. I'm slotted into stuff where I'm needed and I'm learning a lot as well. But also like I have my own projects and visions that I want to bring to fruit. Like how do I present that to the company? So it's a
And
bit
on
of
top of
everything.
all this,
I read all the tweets, by the way. I don't like them, I
all
don't
that,
acknowledge them, but I read all the FlyQuest stuff that's out there.
Oh
So if
boy.
y'all want to talk
all that
shit,
you see,
I see it.
you've seen everything I've said. Oh no, you're just gonna see a lot of Whippo fanboy next year. A lot of them.
I'm gonna try to make a
Yeah,
Whipple fan cam, like just so I can like experience my editing. I
I
didn't
will
practice editing
subscribe
anyways. I'm
to
like trying
that.
to do it. I'm trying to do it.
I,
I can't tell you if it's actually gonna happen, but I do want to attempt to do it.
don't tease
So
me like that. Oh my
I'll
god.
make sure Curly's in your DMs reminding you every day to try and do
Yeah,
it.
no, I will be. I will
I'll
be
send it to
on
you
you. I'll
first
be
for
like, new.
approval. I'll just be like, is this approved?
This is amazing. This is awesome. It's got to be like the same level as like Le Seraphim fan cams. Like it's got to be up there. All right. All right. So this kind of transitions perfectly into the next question. You've talked about fan cams. What else are you looking forward to in 2024 and like maybe even potential leaks of your
Oh
plans?
boy.
Or
Yeah,
sneak peeks.
so
You can tease us. You don't have to leak.
for 2024, for my role in FlyQuest, or just like 20 or FlyQuest's like vision for 2024.
Your role, I think, is more
Okay.
specifically what, and then especially with the looking forward to, like, what are you
Yeah.
excited to be able to present to the community?
Yeah, so I'm participating right now in Valorant Game Changers. FlyQuest Red does have a Valorant Game Changers team that we participate in like open qualifier tournaments, like obviously trying to qualify for Brazil, which we didn't make it, but that's okay. So I want to learn more about like Valorant Game Changers, and I think helping being a part of this tournament, helping on the back end or being a front end for communication has definitely helped me realize the amount of players there are in Game Changers and how cool they all are, and they all have personalities, and I want to like learn that more, right?
Good.
So I definitely want to help that scene any way that I can. Obviously FlyQuest has a competitive roster for that, but also too is just like what can I do to help these players and like help them feel engaged with like Game Changer scene. um Fighting games is something I have little knowledge of, but something that I'm trying to get into more, right? FlyQuest has 5 FGC players. So Evo is probably like the League of Legends like finals of fighting games, if you want to call it
Mhm.
like that. FlyQuest was there. We debuted 5 signed players. We did like a guerrilla marketing event of if you place top 8, you can be a fly fighter for the weekend. If you place like a certain amount in your placement, we'll give you like $200 in cash. Like I want to see how I can improve that. If not myself, then like help improve the marketing, like that kind of stuff. So for me, it's because I'm a year and a half into esports, I don't really have the established experience like everyone else, right? Like a lot of people come into esports, some of them have like player experience, coaching experience, like boothing, marketing, sponsorships. I'm like, I don't really have any of that. So for me, it's just I want to learn more of those skills, so I can put them on my resume, but also like how do I apply them to help these communities and make it engaging, fun, not feel so corporatey, hopefully, just like there's still like a human touch in some of these. So I'm excited to grow myself as an individual, but I'm excited to learn like 3 new genres. Like I've been watching more CS and Valorant because of the stuff we've been doing, right?
Right.
So it's kind of interesting because I have to imagine that part of the reason why Fly approached you to have them join in the first place was because you have such a unique perspective in the scene, because you're such a fresh person in the esports world, right? You you don't have these preconceived notions of how things should be or the way things have been done before, etc. Like you don't have biases, right? And so I'm sure that's probably the reason why you're probably extremely attracted to someone like the organization of FlyQuest, because you can apply your vision and what your expectations are. But on the flip end, one of the cons of that though is like you also just don't know how things have worked. So I guess what are just really fast. I know this wasn't like something I was planning on asking you, but what are some like things that you feel like you've been able to apply because it's been you, and what are some like things that you've noticed that really like you struggled with because you're not used to the scene, you're not used to the esports world, I guess.
I would say like I struggle a lot with retention, if that's the right word. Like when you grab someone's attention, it's literally 10 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like fans will stay on to an org, I would say, like because the the team wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of esports conversation is also like how do you retain that attention without winning? Like what type of branding, messaging, product you want to deliver to keep someone and to have them be invested into you. So that's something I think that's a global conversation and less like a conversation for myself, but that's something like I
Mm-hmm.
struggle with. Just thinking about like if I'm watching FlyQuest from the outside in, like what would keep me entertained, right? Obviously with League of Legends, like we did not have a good placement in summer 2023, but like how do you keep fans to keep watching League, right? Like from the outside in, no one knows that it's new management, no one knows we're trying a new direction, or at least like what it seems like, right? So how do you keep someone entertained? How do you keep someone engaged? That's something I struggle with. Just because one, I don't have the 5+ years of experience like everyone else. I have not even had the history of seeing how stuff like ebbs and flows, right? Like I don't have that history. But I can't say like stuff that I feel like I've owned. LCS Summer Finals was definitely for me like it was a lot of work. It was my first time running an event like that. I will say like I learned some things, right? Like it was very hot and very humid that day. I should have like running fans and like spray water like for our players, right? Because they're the talent. Like Basil Leaf was there as a content creator, so like does she have a schedule in which that she needs to be on? Because I don't want her to be at the booth all day. She has other obligations. We did a MasterCard fan experience. So for me, it's like, what does this fan want in terms of FlyQuest that I can deliver as like a community manager? I will say, like, I feel like I've owned summer finals and I've learned a lot from it because I just don't have the experience of running a booth. But the feeling that I meet a fan and they're just like, I'm so glad you're here. Like, I waited 2 hours to meet these players. Like, I know FlyQuest didn't do well. I didn't expect you guys to be here, but you're here and I'm so glad you're here. Like, that's what makes the experience for me. And that reminds me over and over. I'm like, I'm working hard and seeing all the shit you guys say about us online. Because I want a fan to come up to me and be like, "Thank you for being here." And I know that's a very like small experience, but for me, I'm just like, okay, like I'm gonna keep going. So for me, like Valorant Game Changers, we're doing a Trailblazer Event 3 happening tomorrow, actually. So how do I get people engaged in this, and how do I have players or fans just be like, I'm like excited to do this, like thank you for hosting this. So that's what I feel like I've owned up to. Just I want to learn how to contribute more because of my lack of experience in the industry, but also like I have ideas and I'm trying to be a little more confident in executing them. But how do I just keep people engaged and still have that same like passion in my eyes that I did as a fan, but now looking at it from a brand. Like I don't want to lose that. I tell people that I don't want to be jaded. And a lot of people are jaded.
Right.
It's just a part of the industry. I don't want to be jaded. I haven't been here for 5+ years. I'm still like new. I'm gonna keep that spirit, even if no one else has it. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, you need one. You need one shining light somewhere. So,
what's the Curly? Kind of asked this question, but I'll re-ask it. How what's kind of the FlyQuest vision for 2024 in terms of social engagement in terms of interacting with the fans? Are there new things in development? I assume we're going to see more of like the same high quality meme content on Twitter and elsewhere. X and elsewhere. But what's kind of the vision that the team is laying out as we near the end of the year here?
I think what you saw from 2023 from FlyQuest is more stuff outside League of Legends, right? Like we've taken on a women's CS team, a women's Valorant team, RIP CLG, I miss you dearly. And also too, we've signed 5 fighting game players who all are in their respective games like top of their line. Actually like top 3, one even, like very high class ranked players. So I think this year we've shown that we are dabbling in other games. And I think for 2024 we'd be like, okay, we dabbled, but let's not just dabble, right? Like let's show you like why we signed to these players. Let's show you like why we're in these games and like bring more life than to just like League of Legends, right? Like I think FlyQuest is interesting in that they have a vision of like self-expression, but like what does that mean? Yes, there's self-expression in video games, but there's self-expression in the graphics we do, in the messaging we do. We did a basil leaf like merchandise collection recently. What does that photo shoot feel like? Like, is this still on brand with our vision? So I would say 2024, I would say look out for more like, yeah, we showed you a bunch of things that we did in 2023, but like how do we display to you that we're invested in these things in 2024? I will say that like definitely you should watch the LCS roster video again because there is something in there. He. But I will say there's fun things. There's fun things in the works. I'm excited for it. Obviously January is a very packed month for LCS, right? Because not only did the game start, a lot of the teams like do content again, like they do merchandise, they do marketing campaigns, so it's never dull in January, but definitely look out for FlyQuest. I think we have a lot of interesting things that may shock older fans, but also it feels like a breath of fresh life too, especially esports winter and all that jazz. So it'll be fun. I'm excited. I've seen some of the stuff. It's exciting.
I'm looking forward to it. All right. We're going to go a different direction here as we round things out. And so there's another powerful woman over there at FlyQuest in the nature of Avali May, who has her own little cast she has with the caster's couch. And so...
Curly, wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast? You said caster couch. So this is not setting me up for failure. This is not setting... Is this an men? Are you having me reference the wrong podcast here?
Yes, I am.
So now here's the thing. This whole tangent, we're going to pretend it didn't happen. And this is a reminder. This is an NA production, and it's a Monday. So the last second didn't happen. Hey, Angie. So to round this out.
Caster House.
I know.
Caster House.
I know
oh boy.
Some random unnamed podcast out there in the world asks this question. What's the most LA thing that has happened to you this week?
It's called Raising NA, first of all.
Thank you.
Is it Raising NA? Is this the
I don't even know anymore. I've been steered so far off course.
I'm gonna tell those casters, by the way. I think I see them this week. I'm gonna tell them they got roasted on here.
Let them flame me. Let them flame me. I will take it. I'll take the brunt.
Most LA thing that has happened. I don't have a printer in my apartment, so I went to a FedEx to print out some shipping labels since it's holiday season. A homeless individual walked in, and he was immediately escorted out for safety reasons. I don't believe that they were of mind. At least with the language they used, they were shouting very angrily profanity, like into this FedEx. It was like 12 o'clock. There were 3 people in this FedEx. I felt very bad, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't see this back home. Like, this is just not something you see back home. Like, there's a huge homeless problem in LA. Yes, valid, but I felt... It's like, I'm in a FedEx. Like, it's new. Like, oh, this didn't happen to me this week, but this FedEx, I went there at like 9 o'clock once, and when they just opened, and there was like they got like watermelon. Like there were two like broken huge watermelons.
Watermelon?
In front of the automatic doors, like two broken watermelons. And I told the employee, I'm like, hey, I don't know if you saw. He's like, yeah, I just walked in. There's just two watermelons in front. We'll clean it up eventually. I'm like,
who out here wasting a whole
they were
ass?
considerably large. Like they were considerably large and broken, like broken in half. I'm like, is anyone gonna acknowledge that the walkway to enter, like I have to step over watermelon?
like,
oh my god.
That didn't happen to me this week, but that was the same FedEx. Like,
who's wasting a whole ass watermelon?
There's a grocery store across this FedEx, so I don't know what happened there. But...
Maybe that corner's just cursed. Maybe you need to find somewhere else to go.
That corner's kind of busy, so maybe I'll go to a different FedEx. But this is the second I've gone to this FedEx a couple times before. It's very close, but also like I don't know if I want to like go here alone now.
Dang.
So check. Be polite to your holiday workers, but also don't watermelon a location.
Yeah,
don't watermelon a location.
I am going to ask one last very, very, very quick question because they're in the chat. But what are your final thoughts on the everlasting, impeccable, godly Tim Kench?
I enjoy him dearly.
There it is. Perfect.
You can clip that.
That's all we needed to hear. Nice and simple.
That's all we needed. Well, that is all great. That is all well and good. But our time today has sadly come to a close. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into yet another episode of Flight Check. Nothing is going on. There's nothing to watch this week. There's very, very little esports content happening. But it is mid-December. Christmas is coming. Don't forget to get those presents now, because sometimes shipping takes a while. I bought something today for my wife that will arrive on December 20th. And I'm kind of like biting my nails a little like, oh boy, I hope it arrives and there's no delays, because that could be bad. So that's my recommendation to you. Do your shopping now, or plan to go shopping in person at places where you can walk away with the gift.
I'm a big in-person guy. That's what I do for my Christmas shopping.
Hey, if it works, it works. But sometimes you just don't have time to get away and go. But you know what you probably do have time to do? Because it's only going to take you probably 20 seconds in total. You can follow all four of us on Twitter for all of our reactions to esports news, our thoughts on Christmas, and our tales of whatever's going on in our local FedEx. You can catch the show at Flight Check Crew, myself at SantosDB, Nox at NoxWar with 2 R's, and Curly at Curly_QQ_. I am making sure I'm going to spell Numii's Twitter handle correctly.
It's the triple I.
N-U-M.
I've gotten 2 eyes. I'm like, I'm over it. Like, I can't. This branding's not a thing. Like,
Yeah.
I can't use this name. It's just too hard.
N-U-M-triple-I.
Yep.
If you would like to follow Numiii on Twitter. And don't forget, you can you got to hop into our Discord as well. We'll be sharing all kinds of Christmas presents and otherwise. And if you missed any part of this episode, the VOD will be up on YouTube tonight or tomorrow morning, and we'll get it on Spotify later this week as well. If you're watching or listening to those and would like to catch the show live, we broadcast the episode usually every Monday night, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at twitch.tv/FlightCheckCrew. Nox and Curly, I'll come to you first for plugs and shoutouts, and then Numiii, I'll give you the stage to close things out. Nox, any final notes or shoutouts before we close things up?
Shout out to Goobygon for helping me get all these stupid adhesive stickers off of my new fridge and oven and dishwasher, and these stickers are the dumbest things ever. So shout out to Goobygon.
Nice. I'm going to shout out to Costco for being the primary source for all food and drinks for the weekend I just had. You got us through a lot, and those Purdue chicken nuggets are really great. They're really great.
Yeah. In case it's not obvious, we are accepting sponsors. Goobygon, Costco.
Yeah.
Putting it out there.
I mean, all right, fine. On that note,
Yeah, sell out, Sandy.
I've got a sponsor.
Make us in that cash.
I've got a sponsor in just a second. Numiii. What are your shout outs and plugs? Anything you'd like to talk about tonight?
FlyQuest is hosting event 3 of 4 of our Trailblazer series. It is a Valorant Game Changer tournament. We have $10,000 on the line. I don't know if people know this. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of fun. Actually, I heard we have an interesting caster who may have been on Game Changer finals. Take a look there.
Noted.
It'll be fun. And I would like to plug this podcast, honestly. I love fan content. I miss looking at League, right? I was watching amateur things from Team Fish Taco. Like, when am I gonna see competitive League again? Like, what's going on here? I do love being on stuff like this. I think people undervalue the effort and time it takes to love something. Like a person, a player, a brand, an org, like a concept. The amount of care that a fan has into something is so powerful, and I don't think people realize that. So like part of my role as community management as well as highlighting those spaces and encouraging it and being a part of it when I can, because that's how I started. I helped with a fan podcast. I watched League obsessively. I learned all these players and their histories and their names, and somehow I landed a role here.
There you go.
So I shout out this podcast. I do love spaces like these, and it reminds me that like at the end of the day we all have a love for like this org and the games that we love seeing, right? Like my heart is always into League of Legends, but I'm so excited to open that up to other games as well. So shout out this podcast. Y'all great. Y'all doing great. Maybe I'll leak something better next time. You should check out the LCS roster video. There's something there.
All right.
So what I'm hearing is we're inviting you back next week so you can leak it sooner.
Let me. Well, you check the LCS roster video. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Cool. We'll do some digging.
All right. My thing's gonna go to Dell monitors. Because I bought.
Yeah.
There
we go.
I bought new monitors this week. And it's not the monitor's fault. It's my fault that I struggled to get them hooked up to my tower. Definitely, I made the mistakes in not doing the proper research as to what compatibilities I had for these monitors. But they're great. I have 2 of them working. And an adapter I need is on the way to get the 3rd one working. So,
Wow.
I'll have the full setup ready to go.
Wait, can you guys hear that? Wait. Oh, there it is. That's the money hitting our Cash App right there.
Yeah, that's the ding ding ding.
Yeah,
my PayPal.
The PayPal hit.
Yeah. So
PayPal,
shout out Dell monitors for actually working out pretty well. That is all we've got.
Costco just gave me a free hot dog.
Hey.
That was great.
You got that $2 sponsorship in right there. So, all right. Well, that is all we've got for today. We will be back sometime soon to discuss whatever is going on in FlyQuest Esports. But until then, I'll just say stay safe out there. Do not forget to hit the head on the nail. And we'll see you all very, very soon. Adios, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.
Peace, y'all.